I recently sat down with Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry for a wide-ranging conversation that centered on his country's relationship with the United States, as well as Egypt's commitment to fight terrorism, both within its borders and beyond. One of the first questions was about Egypt's game plan against Muslim extremists. Take a listen.
Well, I think it was a recognition from that experience of the year of brotherhood rule that the Egyptian population recognized that this radical fundamentalist ideology and its efforts to change the nature of Egypt, to change its social composition. We are, yes, predominantly Muslim, but we have a 10% Christian community in Egypt, one that we do not refer to as a minority, because you cannot distinguish between a Muslim Egyptian and a Christian Egyptian, and thereby we are all associated to this land and work for its betterment.
And you know, therein lies the rub, so to speak, and that is that Egypt is a nation state. It is not a country that is a theocracy or controlled by a religion, which is, you know, part of what's going on to the east, northeast of Egypt.
That is true. We're blessed that we are not sectarian, and we are closely associated to the idea of the nation state, to our association to the values, and whether Muslim, Christian, or any other denomination, we have an interest in preserving that character of the Egyptians, as Arabs, as benevolent participants in the regional context. And we, I think, have an influence and will continue to play that influence, which I think coincides with our sense of history and sense of association, not only to the region, but to the world and our common heritage.
Egypt has tried, with the overthrow of the Morsi government and the Muslim Brotherhood, to combat extremism. Egypt has always had a good relationship with the United States. But for some reason, the United States pulled back with your new president, el-Sisi, in terms of providing some of the military equipment that had been promised to a Muslim Brotherhood president. Why did that happen?
Well, I think there are many complications related to this last 4 years of turbulence in Egypt, but I think what is important is that Egypt is committed to its relationship to the United States. It's committed to the mutual benefit that both countries have extracted over the last 40 years. It's a commitment related to the common values that both are present in Egypt and in the United States, and we're determined to continue to cooperate with the United States economically, militarily, and we do not intersect with the U.S. interests. On the contrary, we are always supportive of U.S. interests.
You're allowing the United States the use of the Suez Canal,
expedited
use of the Suez Canal. But do you believe that the United States is as committed to Egypt as Egypt is to the United States?
Well, we certainly hope so. We depend on it, and we do not miss any opportunity to reinforce the relationship, to work to advance it, and to solidify it.
Your President el-Sisi and my President Obama were both in New York City at the same time. Your president addressed the UN, and yet they didn't meet. And also there seems to be nothing scheduled in Washington. And yet our president was able to meet with Putin, who is not an ally. Our president met with the president of Kazakhstan. Doesn't that make you feel a little frustrated?
Well, we look forward for the opportunity when they can meet, and they did meet briefly on the margins of the summit against violent extremism. They had a few words, and I'm looking forward. They do speak on the phone occasionally, and we're looking forward to the first opportunity where time will allow for a more lengthy meeting between them.
Well, isn't it true that as it relates to Syria, that instead of meeting with President el-Sisi, our President Obama said that el-Sisi should be a part of a future group, an international group to discuss Syria?
We welcome that invitation, and we have been actively contributing to trying to resolve the issues in Syria. We've had in Egypt 2 conferences for the Syrian opposition where they indicated their willingness to enter into a political process. We encourage our regional partners and others in the region, including the Syrian government itself and other important international players, to the importance of the political process. And we will continue to work to that end.
Mr. Foreign Minister, how would Egypt feel if President Bashar Assad were to be propped up by the assistance or with the assistance of Russia?
Well, we have indications. We've been told that Russian involvement in Syria is related to degrading ISIS capacity.
But we all know that they didn't attack ISIS.
Well, we go by what we are informed, and we are always encouraging wider participation by all members of the international community to degrade and to eradicate the ISIS threat. And that is, I think, the main objective, and everyone must be held accountable to that objective.
Do you think Bashar Assad should be removed?
We think that a political process has to initiate in Syria, one that is responsive to the needs of all of the Syrian people, and that through that political process is the resolution of all of the issues, including governance, who might govern or who might not. It's a matter for the Syrian people to address, but of course taking into account the history of these 4 years and the complications and the suffering that the Syrian people have had to endure.
The foreign minister also told me that tourism, which took a hit after attacks by Islamic extremists, is on the comeback in Egypt. As a frequent visitor, I can vouch for that. My thanks to Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry for taking the time to talk with Justice.